So today's presentation, followed by a demo, is on Cosmos DB. So the Cosmos DB is a multi-model database, and we'll see, like how it can be used for various use cases. And today you will be seeing one of the very innovative use case. So let me go ahead and share my screen. Okay, once again, thank you very much for joining during this long weekend for some or most of the people. Thank you very much. So let me go ahead and share my screen. Just quick Azure updates before we begin for like 30 seconds. We have availability zones in select regions. So those are generally available. And actually there is an update for Azure IoT Edge during March. So one of the thing that I got very excited is they released an SDK for Golang, as well as Event Hub's API for Golang. So which is really good. So for those who are developing their applications in Golang, using Event Hubs is the most common scenario, and I'm really excited on that. Then, remaining things, I'll send you the slide. These are pretty much self-explanatory. Other important thing is Azure Data Factory, which supports Azure Active Directory authentication. They changed actually few service names, especially around Postgres and MySQL, I think, so just their name changes, and service itself is not going to change. So having said that, I want to actually move on because I have a little bit of stuff to cover. So Cosmos DB is a multi-model database. Like I said, it has 4 different kinds of models that are supported as of today. Key value, which you would associate, those of you who are web developers, you will associate key value stores with Redis cache or Azure tables. So here in Cosmos DB, they have opened up Azure Tables API so that it can be scalable and it can be fitted with Cosmos. So column family, they introduced the Cassandra, which is a column family store. As you know, it's a Cassandra file system. So you can use Cosmos as a Cassandra file system. However, this is in limited preview at this point, and you need to actually enroll yourself in the preview and wait a little bit because of the popularity and the number of customers that are showing interest. So DocumentDB, this you are familiar with DocumentDB APIs, especially the SQL API in Cosmos DB, which is what DocumentDB is called now, right? So it all started with DocumentDB, Document API. Now it is called SQL API. There is a Mongo DB API. You all know it's a Mongo API.
Yeah, Sri, we're not seeing anything right now.
Oh, really? Okay. I am not sure why you're not saying anything. Okay, so let me reshare, okay? I don't know why. Are you able to hear me?
Yes. Yeah. It says loading right now.
Yeah.
Okay, we can see your desktop now.
Okay, awesome. Let's move on. I'm sorry for that. Um, so what are the various use cases for Cosmos DB? You can use Cosmos DB as an operational database. You can use it as analytics database. It serves as a hot updatable large volume store such as a data lake, right? You can use it for that. And especially, right, the most popular use case is the serverless. With Azure Functions or Docker or whatever, a database for AI and database for IoT and time series data. So all of these things you can very well go through the Azure Document DB, just the basic documentation. I just don't want to waste my time on this. So let's move on to the demo because this is exactly what I want to show you today. So today's theme is IoT. How can we actually use Cosmos DB for doing IoT? Um, and also, how can we actually visualize the data as the data is coming inside using Spark? So as I said, sky is the limit. So if you think, innovatively, you can do anything in Cosmos. That's the message today. So when IoT and Cosmos, one of the typical use cases, you have devices in the field. They will be sending messages through a field gateway or through modern protocols or device protocols such as AMQP, MQTT, and HTTP versions of the protocol to the cloud gateway, which is an IoT hub. And from IoT hub, you have various paths your IoT data can go through. It can take a cold path, it can take a hot path, or it can take a hot path where some kind of business logic need to be incorporated, which also means you need to integrate your data in real time or near real time with other applications such as Dynamics or BizDoc server or your internal applications. So today, what I want to show you is how to deal, with hot path. So you would have seen cold path, right? It sits in the data lake, and you do machine learning or you do whatever with IoT data. But today's concept mostly is how would we deal with the hot data that is coming from IoT. So Cosmos DB, so today's theme is especially around once the data is stored in Cosmos DB from a cloud gateway, how would we interface Cosmos DB's change feed with Azure Functions and Spark is today's theme. So this is cutting edge, like these features came pretty recently in Cosmos DB, and hence I wanted to educate everyone on this so that you can advise your customers of how to deal with hard data. So as far as sharing is concerned, you are still able to see my screen, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So then also yet another new feature is so instead of from your notebooks, if you what you used to do is you used to connect to Cosmos DB from your notebooks, pretty much running on a Spark cluster using some kind of gateway connection where the data used to be transferring back and forth between your notebook and Cosmos pretty much over the network on standard protocols, and it used to take a lot of time. So what engineering team did is they introduced something called Azure Cosmos DB Spark. So Azure Cosmos DB Spark, what it does is you have now the ability to directly connect to the data nodes, which you are seeing on the right hand side on this ring. And they can communicate directly with the worker nodes on the Spark cluster once the connection is enabled. Okay, so this is pretty fast. So you will be seeing exactly this in a couple of minutes. So also we have actually, I wanted to show you the various tool sets, correct, in order to deal with Cosmos. So there is a SQL API or a document DB API, which is now generally available to everyone, where you can actually do SQL-like queries on the Cosmos DB. Of course, you know that you can use JavaScript. It's a first-class citizen within Cosmos world, and that's the beauty of using Node.js as a programming language, either for server side or on the client side, which is pretty much like why most of the developers are adopting Cosmos. And we have the backward compatibility with Mongo APIs, like our full compatibility, and these features are getting enhanced every single day. And as you all know, when you are using MongoDB, it's just you have to replace the connection string. That's the only requirement. Remaining thing, everything, Cosmos DB behaves exactly like a MongoDB, maybe with like a few exceptions, which are very rare. So we spoke about Cassandra. We spoke. There is an H-based connector. That's a different story. That's for another day. And you can use like your own IDEs and whatnot. So let's go ahead and actually jump into our demo. So our demo pretty much is we are simulating IoT data. We are simulating IoT data into an IoT hub. Okay, so I'm not going to go through what we are simulating and how we are simulating. That's for another call. But if you go and see the devices as such here, if you go and see you go and see the IoT devices. See, I have the various devices. These are simulated devices that start with device and some gibberish code. So the data is getting pumped here at a rate of 30 seconds. So then once the data comes in, the data is going to go into a stream analytics SQL. So this takes IoT as an input and it outputs the data into Cosmos. And here is a SQL for that. Once again, like how to do this is beyond this conversation. So for now, please think that it is going into Cosmos staging. So the Cosmos staging contains a collection called device data. That's where all the data is getting stored in the device data. So now having said that, we have set this up and the data is going into device data. Now the next thing is, how do we read that data, which is today's scope? Okay, so this is a hard data. I want this data now, right now. So how do I deal with that data, right? So I deal with that data with Azure functions. I wrote an Azure function. So as you know, let me actually take you over this portion of code. Let me enlarge this a little bit so that, is everyone able to see the code? Okay. John, you are able to see my screen still, right?
Yes, I am able to see it. Yes.
Okay, awesome. So what this code does is, the code is, as you know, we can write a C# function or a Node.js function. In this case, I chose to use Node.js. Every function, it has to be exported. It takes the context as an input. And in this case, it takes documents as an input. How does it know documents as an input? It knows documents as an input because Cosmos DB changelog, as you saw at the beginning of the call, once the data is being input in the Cosmos, there is a changelog, and by default changelog is enabled on the Cosmos DB. It's like a transaction log for the SQL guys. So that log serves as a trigger to this function. And that's how, this context and documents are being passed inside, and you can incorporate, the simple logic here. Nevertheless, my simple logic is if the temperature is greater than 29 degrees centigrade, I am raising a critical alert. If it is between 26 and 29 degrees centigrade, I'm creating a warning. And of course, as you can see, you can bind an output to the context. And in my case, the output is also a document DB, but it's another document DB, okay? But you can bind anything, you can bind a data lake, you can bind a blob, you can bind anything, right? But in my case, since today's theme is all Cosmos, I have done Cosmos as binding. So once we do that and create it, as you can see, it is reading the change log in real time. So this is real time. And this function, why we call it a serverless compute is, as you know, Azure functions are serverless. How Microsoft does in the backend is beyond the scope of this conversation. But all you need to know is you don't need to know about it. So if they are maintaining Docker containers or if they are using some other kind of orchestration, it's beyond the point. But all we need to know is we can run our application logic just like that as an Azure function, and rest of the stuff is taken care of by Microsoft. This is really powerful. Okay, so the data is being read directly here, and this function can interface with anything as we spoke. Also, we saw how to interface Spark and Cosmos. Okay, so this is Spark and Cosmos. As you can see, if you are wondering where exactly I'm running my Spark and where exactly are my worker nodes, this is another new feature called Azure Databricks. So Azure Databricks contains Spark clusters, and you can spin up the Spark cluster, this behaves like any other Spark cluster. And as you have seen in the architecture diagram, you can interface your Spark worker nodes to Cosmos. And for that, I said it's called Cosmos DB. We introduced something called Cosmos DB Spark API in order to achieve that. And I'm importing several things from there. So let me actually, show you what all you need at the minimum to connect. So you need actually a Cosmos DB endpoint, you need Cosmos DB's key, and you need the database, and you need the collection. So as you can see, I am writing critical alerts into a database, right? Which are read from the changelog using Azure functions. So I wrote it into critical alerts collection. So I gave that to the config, and once I run the config, the configuration is known, and then based on .read.cosmosdb, you can actually read it. So once you read it, then you just create a data frame. Once you create the data frame, you create a temporary table. Once you create a temporary table, you run Spark SQL. And once you run Spark SQL, boom, there you go. That is your data. That is your real-time data. So you can actually, use Spark streaming. No one is stopping us to do that. So, and you can deploy this notebook to run every 2 minutes once, so that you can see the output, what are the critical alerts that are being generated and whatnot. This is very powerful for a couple of reasons. Reason number one is, let's go back to our presentation. So if we go back to our presentation, by the nature of IoT, these devices, let's say, like in my simulation, I simulated 30 seconds once, but in real time, you will be getting data from millions of devices, okay? And let's say these devices are sending data every 5 seconds once, 10 seconds once. So when you're dealing with hard path analytics, should you deal with all millions of records that are coming inside, right? So it is better we have some kind of it is better we have some kind of what you call filtering, upfront filtering in real time, right? Upfront filtering in real time. So what I am doing is I am utilizing Cosmos DB's change log, and I am utilizing my serverless compute to write a very simple function where I can filter and take the records that are needed only for me. In my case, they are warnings and critical alerts. Let's say now I filtered my data from 1 million to few hundreds, or maybe few thousands, or maybe few hundreds of thousands if your application is large. And guess what? Since I am able to connect my Spark application to that, I can do real-time analytics then and there. Also, I could do data science because I'm using Spark. So that is the second reason why it is very powerful. So the key takeaway from today's call is I want you to think about Cosmos DB's change log capabilities or change feed capabilities, and think it in a way that how could I trigger a function on a change feed which could be used, let's say, to perform a filter, or how could I perform business logic within Azure functions in order for me to interface the real-time data with my internal applications, let's say, right? So in my case, I just did basic simple filtering, right? And I applied if-else conditions to apply a business logic. But let's say, what if you want to actually, like connect it to yet another internal application within your organization where you can perform the business logic in Azure functions? Yes, you can do it. And I want you to think that way. Then how could I interface with Spark, right? Or, Azure HD Insight, or Stream Analytics, or Storm. So the Stream Analytics is really interesting use case. So just because Cosmos DB's team provided a trigger, right? A first-hand trigger on the change feed, guess what? It serves as a trigger to Spark, to Stream Analytics, to Storm, to Azure HD Insight. Just think about it. Then zero downtime migrations. So when you are talking about zero downtime migrations, this is actually a very, very interesting thought. So as I have shown you today, you can move data easily from one Cosmos to another Cosmos. What if you want to do that? What if you want to do that using changelog? You should be able to do that, right? So in summary, change feed has open a huge huge gateway into hundreds of scenarios that were not possible before. And therefore, I wanted to introduce these two critical concepts to you guys today to make sure we all are on same page regarding these scenarios. So having said that, I will conclude this conversation and I'll open maybe last 3-4 minutes for Q&A. So in order to conclude our conversation, so Cosmos DB's collections are very powerful because they have the change feed enabled on them, and you can actually use the change feed to trigger various scenarios such as serverless compute, or you can interface with your batch or real-time applications within your organization. And one such modern application, let's say for doing machine learning or batch reporting or real-time reporting, is Spark, and you can also have zero downtime migrations. With this, I conclude this portion of demo and presentation, and I'll open it for Q&A. Any questions? Okay, either everyone got it or no one got it. Now I'm scared, guys. Okay, all right. If you don't have questions, I conclude this presentation.
Great job, Sri. This is Jeff.
Okay, you all have a great weekend, and I hope you will have a great time with your family and friends. Talk to you guys.
Thanks,
Sri, do
Sri.
you have a minute? Hi, Sri, Dhanashree, do you have a minute?
Yeah, go ahead.
It was really great demo, first of all, and one of my customers is about to explore similar use case. So I'm just wondering if you have any documentation about your demo so that we can replicate it. So I'm pretty new into the IoT field, so I'm actually looking for some kind of a document starting from how to get the simulated device data and then how to replicate your complete demo. Do you have any suggestion or any resources for that?
I will try to some documentation on the same, but I frankly did it yesterday evening, so I did not get time. I'll send something.
Sure. Thank you so much, sir.
Okay.